I was dressed for my son's wedding when my driver grabbed my arm in the parking garage and said, "Don't get out yet. You need to hear something first." I almost laughed. Gordon had worked for me for 11 years. He had driven me to hospital appointments, airport terminals, and board meetings at 6 in the morning without a word of complaint. He was not a dramatic man. He was the kind of man who kept an umbrella in the trunk because he had noticed years ago that I always forgot mine. So when he said that, I stayed in the car. The ceremony was at a heritage estate outside of Ottawa. My daughter-in-law's choice, which was fine. Everything about the wedding had been her choice, which was also fine. I had told my son that whatever made them happy made me happy, and I meant it. I had written the check for the venue deposit without blinking, $82,000. I did not blink. Her name was Serena. She was 31, 12 years younger than my son, and she had a way of smiling that I could never quite read. Not unkind, not warm either. Somewhere in the middle, like a door that is politely closed. My son's name is Christopher. He is 43 years old, and he looks exactly like his father, which still catches me sometimes when I am not expecting it. His father passed away 9 years ago, a heart attack, fast, no warning. After that, it was just the two of us, and the company we had built together, and the house in Rockcliffe Park that I could not bring myself to sell. Christopher joined the company fresh out of university. He was good at it. Better than good, he had instincts his father never had. For 15 years, I watched him grow into the role, and 3 years ago I transferred 40% of the shares to him. A gift, a gesture of trust, something my own parents had never done for me. I want to say that clearly, because it matters to what comes next. I had planned to give him the rest on his wedding day. I had a letter drafted by my solicitor, a formal transfer, the remaining 60%, structured as a gift with a spousal agreement attached, meaning the shares would remain separate property in the event of a marital breakdown. My solicitor, whose name is Theodore, had suggested that provision. I remember thinking it was overcautious. I remember saying so. I was standing in the parkade 4 floors underground, watching a thin strip of daylight at the entrance when Gordon said, "I need you to listen to me before we go up." He was not looking at me. He was looking straight ahead, both hands still on the steering wheel. "Gordon," I said, "what is it?" He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I arrived early this morning. The florist needed a second vehicle, and the coordinator asked me to help move some of the table arrangements. I was going back through the corridor behind the bridal suite, and I heard voices." He stopped. "Who?" I asked. "Christopher," he said, "and Serena." I did not say anything. "I wasn't trying to listen," he said. "I want you to know that. I stopped because I heard your name, and then I couldn't make myself move." The parkade was cold. One of the fluorescent lights above us was flickering in a slow, irregular way, and I remember watching it without really seeing it. "Tell me," I said. He told me. What he heard was this. Serena was upset about the spousal agreement. She had found out about it. Christopher had told her, I think, or perhaps she had seen a document somewhere, I still don't know, and she was not quiet about her feelings. "Your mother doesn't trust me," she said. "That's what that clause is. That's what it means." And my son said, "It's just her solicitor being overcautious." "No," she said. "It's her controlling everything, like always. Like the venue, like the guest list, like your whole life." I had not controlled the venue. I had not controlled the guest list. I had not said a single word about the guest list, except to provide the names of 14 family friends on my side, which Serena had reduced to 8 without mentioning it to me. I did not know about that until later. My son said something I couldn't quite make out, and then Serena said, "If those shares come to you with strings, we should talk to someone before you accept them. I've already called someone. There may be grounds to have that clause removed." Gordon said her voice was even, measured. like she had thought about this for a long time. My son was quiet for a moment, and then he said, "Let's just get through today." "No," she said. "I want to know you're on my side." There was a pause. Gordon said it felt very long. Then my son said, "I am on your side." And Serena said, "Then after today, we talk about restructuring. The company doesn't need two controlling interests. It needs one." I sat in the front seat of the car and I listened to my driver tell me this in a flat, careful voice. And I thought, she is not wrong about one thing. The company does not need two controlling interests. The company needs whoever is going to protect it. I had just learned it was not going to be Christopher, not because he was malicious. I want to be clear about that even now. I do not think my son was sitting in the bridal suite planning to betray me. I think he was a man in love with a woman who had very clear ideas about the future, and he had made his choice about whose corner he was standing in. I understood that. I had done the same thing once for his father. But understanding something does not mean you have to hand it over without a fight. I told Gordon to take me back out of the parkade. "The wedding starts in 40 minutes, he said. "I know," I said. "Drive me somewhere I can make a phone call." He pulled out onto the Queensway and drove without asking where, and I called Theodore. Theodore is 67 years old and has been handling my family's legal affairs since before Christopher was born. He answered on the second ring. "I need you to stop the transfer," I said. He did not ask me why. He said, "Done. Do you want me to revoke the draft entirely or hold it pending?" "Hold it," I said. "I need to think." "Take your time," he said. "I need to think." "Take your time," he said. I looked out the window. We were passing the Radeau River. The light on the water was the particular grey gold you only get in October in Ontario, and it was, objectively, a beautiful morning. "Theodore," I said, "if I wanted to restructure my holdings such that no future transfer could be contested by a spouse, what would that look like?" He was quiet for a moment. "It would look like a family trust," he said, "with you as the primary trustee. How long would it take, properly done? 6 to 8 weeks. But I can file the preliminary paperwork today if you want." I thought of Serena's voice as Gordon described it. Even, measured, already one step ahead. "File it today," I said. Then I told Gordon to take me back. I was going to my son's wedding. I was going to smile and dance and say the right things, and no one was going to know that anything had changed. I have done harder things than that. The ceremony was held in the main hall of the estate. Stone walls, tall windows, late afternoon light slanting through in long gold bars. Serena was genuinely beautiful in her dress. I want to say that honestly. She had chosen ivory rather than white, and her hair was pinned simply, and when she walked down the aisle she looked like a woman who knew exactly what she was doing and was doing it on purpose. Christopher cried. I watched my son cry at his own wedding, and I felt something in my chest that I do not have a clean word for. Love, still, absolutely. Grief, a little. And something else, something sharper, that I recognized from 30 years of running a company. The particular feeling of knowing something is about to cost you more than you originally planned, and deciding to proceed anyway. I sat in the front row next to my sister, and I held her hand during the vows, and when the officiant asked if anyone had objections, I almost laughed out loud. Not because I was going to say anything, because the absurdity of the question in that moment was so complete. At the reception I was seated at the head table, which Serena had arranged so that I was at the far end, 2 seats down from the couple. I noticed. I did not mention it. I danced with Christopher during the father-daughter song. There was no father for Serena, so the tradition was modified, and Christopher asked me to dance with him instead, and that part was simple and real, and I held on to it. "You look beautiful, Mum," he said. "So do you," I said. He laughed at that, and for a moment he was 23 again, calling me from his first apartment to ask how to cook rice. At the end of the night, when guests were beginning to leave, Serena came and found me at my table. "I hope you had a lovely evening," she said. "I did," I said. "You planned something really beautiful." She smiled. That same smile. The door that is politely closed. "Christopher said you had a letter for him today," she said. "From Theodore." "I did," I said, "but I think we'll wait on that. There's no rush." Something flickered behind her eyes. Very brief. "Of course," she said. "Whenever you're ready?" "Absolutely," I said. I drove home with Gordon, and neither of us spoke for most of the way, and when we pulled into the driveway, he said, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm sorry I had to tell you." "Don't be," I said. "You did exactly the right thing." I meant that completely. 6 weeks later, the Whitmore Family Trust was established under Ontario law, with me as primary trustee and Christopher named as a discretionary beneficiary. The structure meant that the company shares were held by the trust, not by me personally, and not transferable without the trustees' approval. I met with Christopher the day before the paperwork was finalized. I drove myself that day. I did not need Gordon for this one. We met at the coffee shop on Elgin Street, where we used to go on Saturday mornings when he was a teenager. He ordered a flat white. I had a plain coffee, black. Some things do not change. I told him what I had heard in the parkade. I told him calmly, without blame, without crying. I laid it out the way I would lay out a quarterly report. These are the facts. This is what was said. This is the decision I have made. He went very still. "Mum," he said finally. "I'm not angry with you," I said. "I want to say that first. I wasn't trying to. I know," I said. "I believe you. But I heard what I heard, Christopher, and I have to make decisions based on what I know, not what I wish were true." He looked at his hands. He was quiet for a long time. "What does this mean for the company?" he said. "Nothing changes operationally," I said. "You keep your 40%, you keep your role. I am not removing you from anything, but the 60% goes into the trust, which protects it from everyone, including me, if it comes to that. When the time is right, the trust can distribute to you, but it happens on a timeline that I control, not Serena." He looked up at that. "She doesn't know," he said. "I know she doesn't." "She's going to. That's between you and your wife," I said. "I'm not asking you to choose. I'm asking you to understand." He stared at his coffee for a moment. Then he said, "Was it Gordon?" "Yes," I said. He nodded slowly. "Not angry. I watched for anger, and it wasn't there. Something sadder than that. He's been with you a long time," he said. 11 years, I said. He nodded again. We sat there for a while without talking. The coffee shop was busy around us, a Saturday crowd, students, young families, the ordinary hum of a city going about its weekend. A small child at the next table dropped her spoon and laughed at the sound it made. "I love her," Christopher said. "I want you to know that." "I know you do," I said. "But I hear you," he said. "I hear what you're saying." That was all he said. But it was enough. It was the first honest thing I had heard from him in months, and I held on to it all the way home. I want to tell you what I did for Gordon, because that matters, and the story is not complete without it. The week the trust was finalized, I called Theodore and asked about a particular kind of arrangement. A deferred gift, structured properly, not income triggering in the current year. He told me what was possible. I told him what I wanted to do. On a Tuesday morning in November, I asked Gordon to come into the house when he dropped me off rather than waiting in the car. I sat him down in the kitchen, which is where I do everything that matters, and I handed him a letter. It was a formal notification that I had named him as a secondary beneficiary of the trust. a fixed allocation, not discretionary, representing a value that would allow him to retire comfortably whenever he chose. He read it twice. Then he put it down on the table and looked at me. "You don't have to do this," he said. "I know," I said. I just told you what I heard." "Yes," I said, "and because of that my company is protected. My son still has a future in it, and I still have something to leave behind that means what I want it to mean." I paused. "That's not a small thing, Gordon." He looked at the letter again for a long time. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his jacket pocket. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you," I said back. It has been 14 months now since the wedding. Christopher and Serena are still together. There was a difficult period. I do not know the details of what happened between them when she found out about the trust, and I did not ask. What I know is that Christopher called me in January, a few months after our conversation at the coffee shop, and asked if he could come for dinner. He came alone. We ate roast chicken and talked until nearly midnight, the way we used to when he was working through a hard decision and needed to think out loud. He did not say much about Serena. He said that he had done some thinking and that he understood now some things he had not understood before. He said that his father would have done the same thing. I told him I wasn't sure his father would have been as patient about it as I was. He laughed. A real laugh. The first one in a long time. "Serena and we are cordial, carefully cordial. I do not think we will ever be close. I have stopped wanting that, which is its own kind of peace. What I want is for my son to be happy, and to keep building the thing his father and I started, and to someday sit across from his own child in a coffee shop on Elgin Street and be able to say, 'Here is something I have protected for you.' The company had its best fiscal year on record last spring. Christopher ran the operations side almost entirely on his own. I told Theodore we should start talking about a transition timeline, 5 years, maybe 7. There is no rush. The house in Rockcliffe Park still has my husband's books on the shelves in the study. I have not moved them. I do not think I will. Gordon still drives me. We still do not talk much on the long rides. We have gotten very good over the years at the particular silence that exists between two people who have been through something together and do not need to keep explaining it. Some mornings, when he pulls up to the house and I get into the car and we head out into whatever the day is going to be, I think about that parkade, the flickering light, the thin strip of daylight at the entrance, the 40 minutes before my son's wedding when the whole shape of everything could have gone differently. I think about how much depends on the people who simply tell you the truth when it would have been easier not to. And I think some debts you cannot repay. You can only try to be worthy of them.